Alright, hi everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to look at few other modules that are related to package and system performance monitoring. So in today's class I am going to show you how do you install applications on any Linux system, and we are going to cover the package management tools that are available in Linux, both for the CentOS based system as well as for the Ubuntu Debian based systems, and then we will see at how to monitor the system performance. So is my screen visible to all, and is my voice audible to all? Okay, just give me a second. All right, is my screen visible now? All right, so today we are going to see at package management and system performance monitoring. So basically, whenever you want to install any application on a Linux based system, you would use package managers that come pre-installed on the system. So package management in Linux is basically useful when you have to install any application, and on the different distributions like the Red Hat based distribution or the Debian based distribution, you have package managers, and these package managers are basically RPM, Yum, APT and dpackage. So RPM and Yum, these two package managers are present on CentOS or Red Hat based systems, okay, and on Debian systems you get package managers as APT or dpkg, Debian package manager. So I have both the systems available with me. So if I show you on this, so this is my CentOS based system. This is ID like Fedora. So here it specifies this is a CentOS based system, and it has Red Hat package manager. So if I check RPM, I will get the command here. That is your Red Hat package manager. This is the command used for installing applications on a Red Hat based system. So this cloud instance is basically a Red Hat based system. However, my local machine is a Debian based system. So if I check the release ID like Ubuntu, so if you see this property, you will be able to determine this operating system belongs to Debian family of OS. So this is a Ubuntu based system, so it will be having APT package manager, that is the package manager for Ubuntu. So both of these package managers, APT and dpkg, that the Debian package managers and APT, it comes in Debian based systems. However, on Red Hat based system you would see RPM and Yum, Yellow Dog updated modifier. So these two package managers are available by default on these two distributions of operating system, Red Hat based systems and Debian based systems. So whenever you want to install any application, you use these package managers, and we will see how we install any application. So when using a Red Hat based system, first we will go through Red Hat based system. You would get packages that end with .rpm. Okay, so the extension of the package would be application name name.rpm. so this would be your Red Hat package manager file, and you will use RPM command to install the package. So and similarly, when you want to install something from the internet, like from the repository, so by default you will have a few repositories already configured in your system. So when using Yum, you can install the package without going through the internet. So you will install the package directly on your system. So let us check for installing a package. So let us install something like Docker. So Docker is a containerization tool that is very popular in market, and we are using Yum to install it. So Yum, the command name is installed here, and this is the package name. So if I hit enter, so what it will do is it will refresh the packages list. So these are the repositories that are available by default on the system. Okay, so you will also have few repositories depending on your distribution of system, and based on those repositories, it will check whether the package is present, the package that you have provided to install is present in those repositories, and it will try to install it. So right now it is just refreshing the package list, and it will check for this package that is Docker, and it will see if it is able to install it or if it is already installed. So here if you see, the package that is Docker is already obsolete. So it is actually provided by Docker CLI, which is already installed. So here I have this package already installed my system, and I have used yum to just reinstall it or verify whether it was already installed. So this is the way when you install any package on a Red Hat based system. Yes, here is one question. Only root user can install packages. Yes, most probably you would require administrative privileges to install packages on a system. If you don't have average administrative privileges, you will need to inform your system administrator, or if you are a admin user, you can use super user do command, sudo, and followed by the name of the command. So yum install docker, something like this. So this is already a root user. If I go to a user below this, then I will be able to yum install package name. So if that user has super user privileges, then he will be able to install that package, which is already installed here in this case. Now let us take an example of some other package. So if there is also one way, like you can even check which packages are installed by default by using yum list. So yum list will list you all the installed packages by default, and here I am providing to list the installed packages. So it will provide me with the list of all the installed packages. So this is a way where we can actually verify what are the actual packages installed on a system, and this currently we are looking at a Red Hat based system. So these tools RPM and yum, this work on a Red Hat based system. Okay, now once the command is completed, we will see how we can install packages on a Debian based system. So you need to have idea about both the package managers. It is very common that you would encounter a Red Hat based system or a Debian based system over the cloud or somewhere in the data center, and you might need to install packages on that system. So you would use any of these commands. So here if you see, it has returned me a list of all the installed packages on the system. I can even do a word count on this to get the actual count of the packages that are installed on the system. And similarly, this is doing listing of package with help of yum command. All right, and similarly we can use RPM command as well. With the RPM also you can list all the installed packages. Currently I have 683 packages installed on this system. So RPM-QA will query all the available packages on this system. So if you see, by those options QA, I am able to query all the available installed packages, and similarly I will do a word count -l. So I will get a number around 600 something. So in yum list installed, it also counted few lines above which would contain the heading of those listing. So that's why the number was 680 something, and here this is the package count 673. So this is using RPM command. Okay, so I'll provide you with a cheat sheet basically, which will give you the overview of different commands that you can use to install packages, to delete packages, to upgrade packages. Okay, so just take an overview of these commands right now. I'll provide you with a cheat sheet. So we will now check about apt and dpkg. So these are the package managers for a Debian based system. Okay, so if you do what is on this commands, you will get the package manager for Debian. So similarly to apt, similarly to yum command, like in the Red Hat based system, yum will look for the package in the repositories on the Red Hat system, right? So similarly we have apt command. So apt will look for packages in the Debian repository. So if I install the same package Docker here on a Debian based system, what I will get is, it will search for the package in the repositories, and if it is already available, it will give me that it is installed and it is already available. I can even do in man. So let's say if I have to something like reinstall. Okay, so there may be some option to also reinstall a package. So let us remove this package. So apt remove docker. So what I am doing is in apt, that is your Debian package manager, I am just removing this particular package, that is your docker. So what it will do is it will basically remove this package from the system. So it has removed only the package docker. This package does not have any dependencies at moment, hence it is only removing one package, okay, one to remove. And similarly, if I want to install it again, I can use apt install docker. So it will it might ask you for confirmation. You might need to enter y or n, or it will install directly. So here I have reinstalled my docker application on a Ubuntu based system. So if you see, it was able to find Ubuntu in this repository, get request on this particular repo, and then in that it was able to find docker as a package. So this is one way of installing application on a Debian based system. Now similarly, dpkg is another command. Dpkg, this is your Debian package manager, which is similar to your rpm command. So rpm operates on .rpm files. So files ending with .rpm extension are the Red Hat based application files, which can be installed with rpm command. Similarly, files ending with .dpkg will be installed with Debian package manager, which is this one. Okay, so you can use apt for installing packages, which will not require you to download the package file somewhere in your file system and install it. It will install directly. Okay, there is no need for you to go to the page where the package is listed and download it from there and then install it with dpkg. You can use apt directly. It is for convenience. You just need to have the repository available. So if the repository is available and in that repository the package is also available, then it will install directly. Or you may need to go to the repository package listing, and then you need to download it explicitly and then install it with .dpkg file. So let us take one sample example of a dpkg package installation. So docker.dpkg. So if you go on Docker's docs, like if you see here, when you want to install that package, it will give you apt-get commands. Okay, so for convenience it is always recommended to use apt-get, because there are certain package dependencies that you might not be able to do it properly when using dpkg. But if you happen to use dpkg, then they will provide you with the package on their website. So here if you see, still they are providing with you with the apt-get command, apt commands that we have seen, but they will also provide you with dpkg packages directly. Yeah, if you see here, this is how dpkg package is installed. So you install that package, and then that package ends with .db extension, not dpkg. So .deb extension packages you will download it on the file system, and you will use dpkg-i to install it on and path to that package on the file system. So these are the ways that you can install a package on a Debian based system. Okay, so if you want to understand this more clearly, I'll encourage you to go and try it out yourself. You can install a few packages, and then I'll provide you with a cheat sheet to basically install, upgrade and delete packages on the system on the fly. So if you have any doubts, any questions, please let me know. So this is about how to manage your packages on a system. So whenever you want to install any new thing, like if you want to set up a database, if you want to install a web server on a Linux system, you will need to install the required packages and dependencies. So for that you will use these commands. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat window. I'll be happy to take them. Now we will move forward with system performance monitoring. So this is the revisiting section, like we saw about processes yesterday, how we manage different processes on a Linux system. So similarly we saw about few tools to see about what is the currently running process on the system. So performance monitoring is done with the help of few tools on the system. I will cover those, but process management is done with the tools like TOP, the tool that we saw yesterday. So if you see, this is the listing of the processes on the system that are currently running and the number of CPUs that I have on the system. Using a few keystrokes you can install, you can basically configure TOP. So if you type H when TOP is running, it will give you a help page. So if you read this, it will tell you if you want to customize this window, or you can use Q or escape to quit out of the help. So this is TOP. Basically it gives you what are the currently running process on your system, and it will sort them based on the CPU and memory usage. And it is also TOP command is also used for doing your performance monitoring as well. So with TOP you can determine what is your currently running process and which process is using maximum amount of CPU. So if you see, this FFmpeg is the process that is recording my current session. It is consuming around 70 to 80% of CPU of my system, followed by the browser and followed by the audio applications. Yeah. So this way I am able to understand what is the resource utilization on my system with TOP command. And to check the number of processes by the command line, I can use PS, and PS is used for returning you the snapshot of the currently running process on the system. And it has different options, like PS AUX is something that we saw yesterday, PS-AEFL, like there are a lot of options with PS command. You can check it in the the example section of the man page. Here if you see, these are the available options, and you can even sort this with respect to the CPU and memory usage of the processes. Now if you want to monitor system performance statistics, there are a few commands that I'll show you. So firstly, if I have to check for the current CPU and memory usage, I can use TOP. TOP is one command. Then especially for checking the memory on the system, so the amount of memory that is being currently used on my system, the RAM space. So I can use free command. So free without any options will print you the memory usage on the system. So this is the memory usage of my system. Total I have 16 GB, around which 4 GB is being used and 2 GB is free, and available memory is 9 GB, which is not being used. Okay, then I have cache of 10 to 11 GB, and these are the sections that will help you understand what is the current usage of your memory on your system. Similarly, there is a swap space. So swap space is something that is that will reside on your file system. You can create a what I would say swap file, something like a file which will be used as a memory. So if the memory of the system is exhausted, so let's say I have 16 GB of memory in total. Let us make it more human friendly. What I'll do is I'll convert it to gigabytes. So here if you see, now it is showing in GBs. So 15 GB is my total RAM. Okay, around 16 something. So 15 GB is my total RAM, and I have used 4 GB currently, and rest is cached. 10 GB is cached. So if and there is no free memory as such, like there is very limited memory. So when my system memory is totally exhausted, then the swap space will be used. So swap is like a secondary memory space. So the primary is your RAM that is available on your system, and secondary is the swap space. So the swap will be created by default by the operating system. Once you install the operating system, it will create your swap space, which will be in GBs, like 1, 2 or 3 GB to maximum, and you can use this swap space when you exhaust the usage of your memory on the system. So right now, if you see, I have not used swap memory, so everything is being used inside of my RAM directly. Nothing is being stored on the swap. Also, when the swap memory is being used, data is stored on the file system, not in the memory. So the swap memory is actually slower when compared to your RAM. So RAM is a non-volatile memory, and swap memory is present on your file system. So whenever the data is being stored on swap, your system will be very slow, like it will be storing data on your file system and then reading it from the file system. So that operation is very tedious, and swap memory is relatively slow when compared to your RAM. So these are the few fields here. You can format the output depending on your familiarity, like you can even change it to megabytes, or you can change it to GBs. And -h is also a flag which will print the output in a human friendly format. So if you see now, it is also appending a prefix for a suffix for basically representing the type of value here. So here if you see, only 215 MB is free, rest is cached. So I have lot of cache here, 10 GB is cached almost, which is not a good sign. So I have around 2 GB of RAM, 2 GB of swap space, and 15 GB of RAM in total. So this way I am able to identify the memory usage on my system. Okay, so swap space here is 2 GB and my total memory is 15 GB, out of which this is the actual usage on my system. Now if I have to check for few other things, like let's say if I have to check for the input output, I have to have iostat command. So iostat is provided by this package. So if on Debian system, if you type a command and command is not present, then Debian will guide you to install the package which provides you with the commands. So if I see it has provided me with the output to install systat. So systat package contains all of the commands for monitoring the system performance. So let us use this command directly to install this package. Okay, so now systat was available in the Ubuntu repositories, so it went and it installed systat package. Now when systat package is installed, I will have iostat command. Okay, now if I run iostat by default, it will by default give me the performance of the disk. So this is the disk that is available on my system, and this disk space performance is basically printed on the screen by default. So when I run iostat without any options, it will give me the average amount of usage of my disk. So this is KB read per second, KB written per second, KB read and KB write operations. And so this will give me the disk IO related informations on my system. So if you want to check if your disk performance is your bottleneck, then you can use iostat command basically to check for the disk performance. I can even do iostat -1 iostat 1. Okay, so 1 is the interval here, so it will print me the output of the disk performance every second. So if you see, this is printing me the output every second, it is getting refreshed. Yeah, so similarly if you want to check it for every 5 seconds, you can type 5 and it will print you the output every 5-second interval. So this is the basically if you have to check the performance of your disk, then you can use iostat command with no options. So it will print you the current snapshot of your disk performance. If you want to check at intervals, you can just provide iostat with the number of second intervals that you want to see your output in. So if you provide one, every second it will print you the snapshot of the disk performance. If I have to verify the disk, what I can do is I can use df-h command. So disk free command is used to check what is the actual file system use on the system. So if you see here, the actual use of the file system is 28% for my hard disk. So this is my default hard disk, okay, and it is of 500 GB size. So this is the actual usage of my hard disk that is used now. It is used till 28%, and rest are your temporary file systems. So IOSTAT was able to print me the output of my hard disk as well as my few temporary file systems. So these are the temporary file systems that you would see on your system as well. Yeah. For more option, what you can do is you can always use man command. Man is best help page tool which will give you the manual page of the commands, and if you see here, it will give me what are the different options and values that I get. Now there are few variations of this commands, and with few options I can even check for CPU utilization. So by default it was giving me the device block device utilization report. So if I use IOSTAT without any options, it will give me the block device utilization. If I use -c, it will give me the CPU utilization only. So -c, if you see here, it is giving me the CPU utilization, and I can provide with any number to give me the interval based usage of the CPU. So let's say if I want to check for every 2 seconds, I can provide -c2, and it will print me the output of CPU usage every 2 second interval. So it can also print output related to your network, and it can also be used to check other utilizations like memory utilizations as well. So there are a lot of other options that you can use with IOSTAT command, and it will also print you all the networking related information as well. Also in your man pages you would get to know what are the examples. It also has a few examples documented, so what are the examples showing. So if you see here, IOSTAT will give you history of all the CPU and devices on the system by default when used without any options, and if you specify options, it will give you -d will give you the device statistics, like your block device statistics at the interval of 2 seconds, at the interval of 2 seconds basically. Similarly, if you want to check for any hard disk devices, you can provide your hard disk details with -x flag. So -x, SDA is one hard disk, SDB is another hard disk, and it will give me the the utilization report of both the devices at interval of 2 seconds. And it reads all the information related to your system performance through these files. So if you check the file section of the IOSTAT command, you will see it gets the system statistics from procstat file. So and disk statistics from disk-stat file. So here disk related statistics are provided by this file. So if we check these files, so let us get out from this space, and so this is your system related statistics that is provided by procstat file. Okay, so as I had told you before, like /proc file system is a pseudo file system where all the process and system performance related information is stored. Okay, so in this file you would see this is the CPU usage, CPU by CPU usage. I have 8 CPUs in my laptop basically. So this is the CPU performance of my system. So it is provided by this file procstat. Now if I want to check disk stat, then I can use disk stat cat proc disk stat file. So here it is showing me the performance of all the connected disk devices. So what are the block devices on my system, including the temporary devices. So this loop devices starting with loop are your temporary file system devices, and this NVMe, this one is my actual hard disk. So IOStat will always read the performance related information from these files. Proc uptime will give you the system uptime, like since how long my system is running, and few other things like dev disk and proc self mount stats. So I'll encourage you basically to take a look at man page of every command. It gives you a nice information about how the command displays you the information and from where it reads the information. And as I told you, everything in Linux is stored and handled in files by default. So this is a good way of understanding how the data is being represented to you. So basically with IOStat, what they are doing is they are just reading the contents of this file and presenting you in a way that is easy to understand by you. Okay. Now there is one more command, that is vmstat. So with IOStat I was able to check the average CPU utilization and the device related information. So the performance of the device was monitored with IOStat by default, as well as the CPU related information was also monitored. Okay, and it can also monitor the network related information as well. But vmstat is a command which also comes with the same package that we had installed, and it will give you the related information for your memory performance. So what is the memory usage on the system, and how much is being used in swap, what is the free memory. So you can use vmstat command to basically check the memory related information. So these tools are good for performance troubleshooting on the system, and when you are administrating any server, and if you find any bottlenecks related to the disk performance or memory performance or the CPU performance, you will use these tools. These are very important tools. Now if I go to vmstat man page, so it will report me the virtual memory statistics of the system. So if we go down, so in the file section of the man page, similarly when we saw about IOStat, here you will see a few files that vmstat uses to produce the output. So proc meminfo contains all the memory related information of the system. Procstat contains the system statistics that we already had seen. So if we check this file, cat proc meminfo, this is the memory related information of my system currently. So vmstat will use this file, and it will basically read values from this file and present it to us. So here if you see, this is the total amount of memory in KBs, then amount of free memory, amount of available memory, how much memory is being cached, what is the swap memory, if the swap memory is being cached, what is the total amount of swap that is available on my system, how much is free. So almost swap memory is almost free, nothing is being used, and similarly memory related information is being stored here. You can use vmstat with the same parameters, like you can just provide a number. It will give you the, here if I provide 1, it will print the statistics of the memory at 1 second interval. So if you see, this is the memory statistic that is getting printed every second. So I can use these commands basically to monitor the performance of the system. Yeah, and it will also explain you what is the actual definition of each field of the output. So here if you see, this is the swap and swap section. So as I told you, swap memory is actually created on the disk space. So if you have a hard disk, you will have a swap file present somewhere on the hard disk, which will be acting as a swap memory. So SI, this field indicates the amount of memory being swapped in from the disk, so how much it is reading from the disk, and swap out is SO, amount of memory swapped to the disk. So basically how much amount of memory is getting written on the swap memory. So by default this memory lies on the disk. It is not a separate memory chip, so it is something that is created on your disk. So the amount of memory that is currently being swapped, that is currently being written to the disk, and SI means the amount of memory that is currently being read from the disk. So here you will be able to understand what all these values mean and what is the current explanation to it. Yeah. So let us just check whether we have this commands available on our Red Hat based system. So iostat, yes, it is available. So if I use the command here, so let us use it in the same way, like we will print the statistics every 1 second. So if you see on a Red Hat based system, it will print you the same output. By default it will print you the average amount of CPU usage as well as the disk performance. Okay, so I have only one disk available here, that is SDA, and it is printing me the statistics of SDA device. So this is the instance that you guys have access to. Now if I do iostat -c1, it will only print the CPU usage. Okay, and similarly for checking the memory performance, so we can use vmstat here. So it will print me the virtual memory statistics followed by 1. Yeah, so it will print me the statistics every 1 second. There is a lag actually. Yeah, so I hope you are following me. So these are the two commands which are used along with few other commands. So let us just quickly revise what commands we saw. We saw top, then we saw free, then we saw iostat, vmstat. Okay, so these are your commands to basically check. First command is used to check about the currently running processes, and then you can even use ps command, which is not interactive and it is not updating every second like top command is. And for the memory you can use free command. iostat can be used by default to check about your CPU and disk, like your hard disk performance, and vmstat will be used for investigating the memory performance. So the virtual memory statistics are getting recorded in your vmstat command. Another command is SAR command, SAR. So SAR, it means SAR, so this stands for system activity report. SAR command is also used for monitoring your system performance. So by default this command will run and it will log the system performance on your file system in /var-log directory. Okay, this does not comes pre-installed on many systems. You have to install it explicitly, and what it will do, it will monitor all your CPU, memory, disk performance, network performance, and it will write that output to a file on your file system. So basically it writes your output in var-log directory. So writes logging information. So SAR command, what it will do, it will write all the monitoring information in your var-log directory. So there it will create your files, and those files will be created on depending on the day of the month. So it will follow the calendar. It will create files depending on which you will be able to see on which day the system performance was and it will also store that information in your var-log directory. So SAR, this command does not comes pre-installed on many systems. You have to install it explicitly, and it is also used for troubleshooting the system performance. So these commands are actually important for you. Just take a note of this, and I'll provide you with the proper cheat sheets and documents and articles that you can use for learning about this command further. So if I check if I have SAR command, so what is SAR? Yeah, so if you see, this is used for collecting, reporting, and if you want to save your system activity information, you can use SAR command, and it is already installed in my system. So if I have to just verify SAR with SAR, where it is present, it is USR bin SAR. Okay, so if I go to the man page of this command, it is used for monitoring your system performance as per the description, and similarly it will print you the output related to all of the resources like your CPU, memory, disk space, network. So it is a very comprehensive command. It can do a lot of things. By default, if I run this, cannot open. Okay, so what it is complaining here is by default, as I told, it will write all the information in varlog directory. So if you see, it is writing the information in varlog directory, under which there is a directory called systat. So in systat directory, it is creating files with respect to the days. So today being June 17, it is creating SA17. Okay, so if it is complaining that there is no file or directory, if we go there, systat, yeah, so systat directory is present, but there is no file called SA17. So let us do ls. Indeed, there is no file, it is empty. So the folder is empty, that's why it is complaining, and it is not able to collect the system activity information. So by default, what will happen is when you enable SAR, it will run a process in background which will monitor the system performance every few seconds, and it will write it to this location. So if we had tried this on yesterday, let's say on June 16, then it would have created a file like this, SA16. So let us check on the cloud system whether we have SAR available here. Yes, it is. Okay, so let us go to systat, varlog systat. Looks like here it is storing it at some other place, SA. Yeah. So depending on the distribution, the implementation of application varies. So here, if you see on Debian system, it writes the output in varlog systat. However, on a Red Hat system, it is writing the output in varlog SA directory. Okay, so if you see, it is creating files related to days of your month. So if you see here, what is the current file being created? Yeah, so if you see here, it is by default reporting me the CPU utilization of the system. So if this is the CPU utilization, I mean, these are the different fields inside your CPU utilization, how much is being used in the user space, what amount of CPU is being used by the system, and few other bits. So here the SAR command is running in the background. So if I check, there is some other daemon that should be running. What is its name? Mansar. So here if you see, the SAR command is running, and it is collecting the system information, and it is storing it in the file system. So this is the command that is widely used if you want to monitor your system performance continuously, and it is installed by default on most of the server systems. So whenever you log any ticket to any vendor, let's say you have Red Hat Enterprise Linux and you want to troubleshoot the system performance, they will usually ask you for SAR output. So SAR file, they will ask you for SAR related files, so you will have to provide these files and they will investigate these files to troubleshoot the issue related to your system performance. So these files provide information related to your CPU, CPU performance, memory performance, and these are text files, so we can even read these files. So if you see, these are the text files that are getting stored. So by default it is storing CPU related information. Okay, then it will store all the page in, page out, and swap in, swap out network information, memory information as well, the the amount of memory being used, memory free. So everything related to system performance, SAR command will store all of that output in those files. So the people, if you raise a ticket with Red Hat, let's say Red Hat support, then they will ask you for these files and they will investigate these files to troubleshoot the issue related to system performance. And these files are really long text files. So if I do a word count on these files, they are around 800 to 800 characters and 800 lines by default. So these are huge files, text files, and they store all the system information, the monitoring information of the system, and it will store the information, and you can provide these files, and these guys will basically investigate these files, and they will come up with troubleshooting steps. So SAR command is widely used when you have to monitor system performance. So our system performance commands here are basically SAR, which stands for System Activity Report. Okay, so feel free, if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be able to assist you with those questions. This this information is very important. If you are working as a system administrator, you might want to tune your system performance or check the performance troubleshooting of the system, and this command will help you dig further, like if you have any problem related to your disk or your RAM or your CPU, then this command will be helpful for you for troubleshooting it further. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I have to provide you with cheat sheet to install packages on Red Hat based system and Debian based system. I have a cheat sheet ready with me. I will provide you. It will have other commands as well if you want to delete, upgrade, install, reinstall a package. And there is one question, that is how dpkg Debian package manager is different from apt-get. So apt-get package manager is basically the package manager that you can use by default on your Debian system, and it will search for package in the Ubuntu repositories. So there are a few Ubuntu repositories that are already configured by default. So it is present in this file, sources.list, etc apt sources.list. So just let me paste it here. Yeah, so in this file, if I just investigate, this file contains all the Debian repositories. Okay, so this Debian repositories are the repositories in which the system package information is stored. So if I navigate to any one of that, you will see this is the index file containing all the package related information. So here packages related to all the different Ubuntu distributions will be stored. Okay, so distributions, so these are the different distributions available. Okay, so in those distributions you will have repositories, and then repositories like main repository, universe repository, and inside this repository you will have your architecture, system architecture, 64-bit architecture, and then packages. So let's say packages release, no, so this is release file. Okay, so you get the idea, right? You can even take a walkthrough of this file basically. So this is the repository that you will get in etc app sources.list. So under this repository it will go and check for the package that you provide. So apt will do by default whenever you write apt install and some package name, so it will check for that package in the available repositories. So whatever available repositories you have on your system, it will check for that package and it will install that package with all the dependencies. But this will all be automated. You need not to worry if that package have some dependency or not. You will not be bothered about resolving those dependencies. But if you have to install the package by yourself by downloading the package file itself, then you will use dpkg command in that case. So it will be like you will download .debian package. So download .deb package and you will install it with dpkg -f package.deb. So you will install a package with dpkg in a way where you download your deb package from the browser, and you store it somewhere on your file system, and you will use the command dpkg-i path to your package. So in this way you can install the dpkg version of that package. But dpkg will not resolve the dependencies automatically like apt will do. So apt will check if there are any dependencies and it will resolve those dependencies, but dpkg won't do that. So normally people prefer to use apt get instead of dpkg. Similar is the answer for in similar terms it is the answer for how rpm is different from yum. And this is especially for Red Hat based systems. So yum will also resolve your dependencies automatically, whereas rpm is not capable of doing that. Hope that answers your question. All right, so if you have any questions still, please let me know. You can drop a message here in the chat window right away. I can take your questions, or if you are good, then we will be meeting tomorrow again. Tomorrow being the final day, we are going to cover something about network management and some advanced topics like file transfer and remote connection protocols. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be uploading the recording today after this session, and you can always reach out to me over Slack. You can post your comments or questions directly in Slack, and I'll be happy to take those. All right, I'll post you with a cheat sheet about packages, Linux packages, and you can use or refer that cheat sheet basically to try out the command yourselves. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Bye bye.